And so Lobos will get a chance to try it one more time. That pass for Hummel, by the way, was incomplete, of course, out of the end zone. And so Ross will have one more chance. And they will line it up and go for two. Straight T formation in the backfield. Larry Hill bows under the tee. Handoff to Maurice Stevens.
It was 1982, and on a crisp day in November in a small Texas town in the middle of nowhere, 45 inches was the deciding factor in what could have been the greatest triple overtime collegiate football game ever played. Not between top-ranked Power 5 schools, but between the Lobos of Sul Ross University and the Cardinals of William Jewell College in an NAIA quarterfinal contest played in Alpine, Texas.
The Sunset Limited rolls through this West Texas town almost every day, but it rarely stops here. You see, there just aren't a whole lot of people interested in spending part of their lives here. Here in Alpine, Texas, sits the campus of Sul Ross University, the smallest state-supported college in Texas. Enrollment 1,700.
If you want to get to Alpine, Texas, you better gas up the old bus, because in 1982, no commercial airline flew there. When you got dropped off in Alpine to go to college, heading home for the weekend was just not a luxury most players had. It's situated in the Davis Mountains in West Texas, at the foot of the Rocky Mountain Range. And for the second straight year, William Jewell's football title hopes are riding on a trip to Texas. The Cardinals fell out of the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics Division II playoffs last year with a loss to Austin College in Sherman, Texas. The 8-1 Cardinals would get another chance against the Lobos in this opening round playoff game.
I remember the Sunday before. We had just closed out the season on Saturday to finish 10-0. And the word came in on Sunday that, of course, we had made the playoffs. They took the top 8 teams. We were ranked number 3 or 4 or whatever we were, so we knew we were going. But then the word came in that we were going to get to host the game. And I just remember the buzz around the campus and around town.
And we did draw William Jewell the week after we beat Lubbock Christian to go 10-0. Found out we were going to host the game against William Jewell, and not only Sul Ross, but Alpine and Big Bend region. Sul Ross football was top shelf with everybody.
There were so many people backing us. There were so many people backing us, that I would love to recognize. I'd love to recognize the city of Alpine.
I remember it was electric. I was a little bit concerned. I was afraid that we were really ready, but I was afraid that we would peak too early in that ball game.
Sul Ross head coach Joe George is looking for a game that'll pit finesse against power, as the Lobos were relying on high percentage pass plays combined with a balanced running attack. They would face Sul Ross quarterback Larry Hill with 156 completions and 259 attempts for 1,802 yards and 11 touchdowns. Hill was ranked 6th in NAIA passing statistics and ranked 10th in total offense with a passing average of 253 yards a game. Fullback Andrew Hill had 11 touchdowns in 7 games, and tailback Maurice Stevens had 56 catches for 643 yards and 8 touchdowns. Defensively, the two teams are well matched in rushing yard prevention, so there'd be no runaway victory in this one.
Lobos will kick off against the wind here in the first quarter of play. William Jewell has elected to receive, and they will be going with the wind at their back from our right to our left.
It was a huge week, and I remember the whole town, biggest crowd I had ever played in front of. It was just everybody came out. They rolled up the sidewalks in Alpine for that one.
And I remember us going out and warming up at 10:15, 10:30, whatever time they took the first group out. And I'd never heard anything like that. I'd never seen the stands that full, people standing around the fence at every juncture, and just the roar of the Lobos just taking the field to warm up.
And a quarterback back to pass. He's got a man open up at midfield. He's to the 45-yard line, deep into Lobo territory.
And the thing that I remember most about the game, other than the final plays when it ended, was in the pregame where we went out and individually one player from each team would come out and 42 guys suited up. 42 guys suited up, and we met at midfield and shook hands with another player of the opposing team and then took off.
Strong to the short side of the field, and here's the quarterback keeping on the option play. Turns it upfield, a fumble, and we'll see who's got it at the 19-yard line. A scramble for it. The Lobos recover.
I came to Sul Ross as an assistant coach. I was hired by Vernon Fuel and Chet Sample, and after 1 year, Vernon decided to take another position, and they moved me up to be the head coach.
With Joe George, he did not recruit me. I was actually recruited and signed by another coach who resigned and took another job before I actually even reported to play as a freshman. So I ended up playing for Joe George, who I had no knowledge of. And just what a blessing. And his leadership style and his methods on the field and his methods of handling players was just a perfect fit for me. And I would say a lot of our players would say the same thing.
I met with Coach George and Vernon Fuel at the Pig Stand restaurant at W.W. White and Rigsby Road, and they handed me a letter of intent, and I said, well, heck, yeah, sure, I'm going to sign that. So I signed at the Pig Stand, and the rest was history.
Coach George he actually came to Sul Ross as an assistant when I was still playing, and then he moved up into the head coaching position. In my opinion, probably one of, if not the best moves Sul Ross Athletics has ever made.
It all started when Sul Ross made a great decision, and they made a great decision when they hired Coach Joe George.
He used to make me laugh about some of the sayings he used to always come up with. Good gosh of Friday. I still use that with some of my friends today, and they said, where did you get that from? And I said, Coach George.
To attempt the field goal is Steve Hudson. He has a slight angle to his right. The snap is down, the kick is up, and it's good, and we have a 3-0 football game as the Cardinals take the lead.
Coach George was able to bring in a young man by the name of Bob Moran from the West Coast, and we can all tell you some stories about Bob, but Bob was a very innovative offensive mind. He had been at San Francisco State and brought to the table for us a lot of what has now become what they call the West Coast offense, controlled passing game, which kind of played perfectly into Larry's hand as a quarterback, and Maurice Stevens coming out of the backfield. We had good wide receivers, good tight ends, and that all meshed very, very well.
I had a chance to study a bunch of Sul Ross film before I packed up the car and went to Alpine. Really, he had hired me to be the secondary coach. That was the opening, and he asked me about what my offensive background was, and I told him that at San Francisco State we were, just dabbling into the fundamentals of the West Coast offense. And, you can have an idea, but if you can't sell it to our quarterback, we're not going to do it.
The very first offensive play of the '82 season, Bob Moran had come in with some of this West Coast throw it to the backside of the backfield idea. And we held them, and they had a short punt. We got a short field. And we throw a quick pass to the halfback out of the backfield on the very first play of the season. And I hit a little short throw to Maurice Stevens in the flats on the right, and he runs all the way for a touchdown. Doesn't sound like a real a spectacular play, but you could just see the look on the Tarleton's players' faces. What has just happened? We've never seen that concept before.
But I just remember that Saul Ross, the thing that stuck out is when you went out there, it was like, okay, it's going to be different, because they did such a great job of their play action pass. And as far as the run game and selling the run and then the play action and then the quick passing game. I thought that Larry did an unbelievable job watching the film before you prepared to play them, that you knew that you were going to have your hands full because of the job that he was able to do in reading defenses.
And some of the teams that we played, some of the coaches said, you can't stop them. You can't stop them. One reason they couldn't stop them is because we were really ahead of our time.
Third down and about 3.5 to go for the Lobos out at the 47-yard line. Larry Hill straight back to pass. He has plenty of time, and now he's being pursued. Throws the football downfield. He's got Burnett Williams open at the 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown, Lobo. Snap is down. The kick is blocked. The kick is blocked, and our score remains 6-3, and we'll be back after this 60-second timeout.
Bob brought in a lot of new concepts and new ideas that he had experienced and he had coached when he was coaching on the West Coast. And it just so happened that we had a team that was smart enough. We had the receivers, we had the quarterback that could execute anything. I mean, I have perfect confidence in our ability to execute. We just needed some different ways to approach it.
He was very intelligent football-wise, and I think maybe after practice or dinner he liked to frequent the drinking establishments because he would show up the next day with napkins, bar napkins with plays on them, pull them out of his pocket and say, look, we're going to do this when you line up here. And even he would stay after practice while we were trying to work on our timing and let's try this one, and it just clicked.
Bob was just very, very thoughtful into his game planning, and of course he would eat, sleep, and drink football, and he was always with his pad drawing up this and that and everything, and he had nothing else that he wanted to devote his time to. And I remember when he left Alpine, left Saul Ross, he had a vehicle that he had driven for 4 years, pretty nice car. He hadn't had the oil changed in 4 years in that thing, and they told me when they tried to drain the oil out of it, it was almost like tar coming out. Bob said he didn't have time to do that. You know, he was thinking of planning on what he was going to be doing the next ball game. So yeah, he added a lot to our team, and to Joe George's credit, he turned him loose. Again, it's a split backfield, and here's a quarterback. He throws down the middle. He's got a man open, complete into the end zone. Touchdown, Cardinals. Andre Nelson it was who took that pass, a 33-yard scoring pass from quarterback Kelly Groom. Now the Lobos line up in a straight T offense. Handoff to Andrew Hill, standing up for the touchdown. Lobos line it up and go for two. Slot formation to the near side. One running back behind quarterback Larry Hill. Here's Hill straight back to pass. He's got his man Andrew Hill, and he won't get in. And so our score remains 12-10 in favor of the Lobos.
I remember facing William Jewell and those players, and I remember vividly thinking, these are some of the biggest, strongest players that I played against so far in my college career. There was no doubt, there was no question in my mind. They were a force to reckon with. There was no question in my mind, and we knew we had to be at our best, on our best level. And they might have been a little bit deeper overall. I don't know what it was, but they had some ball players that, like I said, that certainly spent some time in the league, and you could see it and you could feel it as we, competed against them that day.
And Muller puts his toe into the football, gives it a high ride, and that wind holds it way up there And it's fumble. Let's see who's got it at the 17-yard line. There's a fight for it. The Lobos have the football. Marcel Clay, the lad who came up with that football.
Ron Mays was our defensive coordinator. Ron had been in the high school ranks for quite a while in East Texas and came out to Sul Ross, joined Coach George as the defensive coordinator, coached the linebackers. And Joe Sanchez, who was originally from the Valley area, coached the offensive line for us. And Joe, I think one of the main things that he brought to the table, he recruited the Valley for us. And a lot of the players that came out of the Valley were very, very instrumental to our success in that long run.
It was awesome to be able to get these guys. Now, that was the area. Of course, I grew up there. I had some good help of special coaches in the Valley, like Coach Alex Leal, Eliseo Villarreal, Richard Flores. I knew that I would go to them and they would direct me to kids that they felt would make it down up here in Sul Ross, And so being able to get that, get them to come over there and then stay there, because that's a long ways from the Valley. You're talking 500 miles, and then the way they gelled together there. I used to remember when I bring a recruit, I'd make sure that they would be hanging out with the rest of the Valley guys, and to make sure that they knew how to show them about and tell them things that would help keep them there.
I just want to say that at Sul Ross, those 4 years, that I played football there, I think were the best years of my life. I think that shaped me into the individual that I am, made me the coach that I am, and the career that I've had. The other thing that I can say about the game of football, if I would have not played that game, I would have never gotten an education. So that's big for me. Having the opportunity to play college football was the only reason I went to college. I would have never gone to college. Came out of there with a master's degree and was able to, work myself up the ranks and had a pretty good career. So I owe everything to the game of football, to Sul Ross State University, to Joe Sanchez that came and recruited me, the offensive line coach, Joe George. It's just, it was the best thing that could have happened to me.
When I initially went to Sul Ross, I went as a young boy, as a young man, 18 years old, out of high school. Somewhere in the phase in going to Sul Ross, there's a transition that goes into a person and change and maturity level. And I think that took place, and I think it took place in a lot of the team players. And that was, I think, the confidence that we had as a team amongst each other.
And it was good to see kids that never would have had a chance to play anywhere get together like that and make something big like this.
And we're out of time here in the first quarter of play. That is the end of the first quarter with our score, Sul Ross 12, William Jewell 10. We'll be back after this timeout.